Chapter 781. Thought contained in the seal of divine essence. Su Ming's pupils shrank. He had only cast the illusion of star, sun, and moon on 2 people in total. One of them was Qianlin, and the other was Jing Nanzi, who was before him now. When these 2 people were under the illusion, they had the same reaction. Their most precious. No, perhaps it would be more accurate to say that it was the memory they did not want to recall the most that would be dug out and appear before them, forcing them to go through the pain it reminded them of once more. While they were in that illusion, they would lose the defense over their hearts, because the one who attacked their minds would not be anyone else but themselves. As the caster, Su Ming could see everything in the memory the one who had fallen under the illusion did not want others to know. He would even feel as if he was experiencing it himself, like that scene just now. Su Ming's heart had shuddered as he saw Jing Nanzi devour his own brother's corpse. The injuries in the physical body can be healed using medicinal cause or by circulating one's cultivation bases, but the injuries of our hearts are wounds of the soul. Unless we forget about them, the only other way for them to be cured is to let time take its toll. This illusion of star, sun, and moon of mind does not injure a person's physical body. It cannot even be considered as an offensive ability. It only draws out the most tender memory in a person's heart and turns it into a traumatizing brand, making the person's soul ache as if a scar that had been sealed off for a long time had been torn apart again. As understanding appeared in Su Ming's eyes, he saw Jing Nanzi letting out a shrill roar with his head thrown back. He yanked off his helmet, revealing his long blood-red hair, and that strangely enchanting face of his. However, his face was pale right then. Red filled his eyes, and he even coughed up a huge mouthful of blood. He staggered backwards. Qianlin's crazed attacks were part of why he had coughed up blood, but the greater reason behind it was the memory he had just recalled. It seemed like it had only happened yesterday, and sharp pain stabbed his heart again and again. Big brother. Jing Nanzi continued moving backwards. Pain appeared in his eyes. His body trembled. Qianlin's face was filled with crazed killing intent at that moment, and he was recklessly executing all his divine abilities, throwing all the most lethal arts and enchanted treasures he possessed against Jing Nanzi at the fastest speed he could muster. Boom! 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 Jing Nanzi continued moving backwards. Blood trickled out of the corners of his mouth, and there was bemusement, pain, and confusion in his eyes. Qianlin brought forth all his power with a crazed look on his face, and as the booming sounds echoed in the air, he threw fist after fist against Jing Nanzi's body. Did you think I didn't know why you didn't kill me in the past? It's only because the Qian family's inborn divine ability is incredibly rare among cultivators. We can fuse perfectly with the plants, and there's even a chance a rare growth armor can be conglomerated. You didn't kill me because you lusted after the Qian family's growth armor. You sought after its might, but you could not obtain it from the Qian family residing in true sacred Yin world. That's why you placed your attention on my family who was banished to the barren lands of divine essence. You didn't kill me because the thickness of my blood surpassed that of my ancestors, because I was the person who had the highest possibility of gathering together the growth armor in the Qian family here. This sal tree was the one you gifted to one of my ancestors of the first generation, and it has been passed down to the descendants of the Qian family since then. What you need is the growth armor from the sal tree. Even though I know of your plans, I still fused with it to kill you. Only by doing so would I be able to bring forth my strongest power. Qianlin roared. The branches before him danced madly, and booming sounds echoed in the air. They shot towards Jing Nanzi as he retreated, and in the blink of an eye, they crashed into the stone wall by the side. Boom! Shattered stones flew into the air. Su Ming sucked in a deep breath from the distance. The sun and moon disappeared from his eyes, and he tightened his grip around the killing sword in his hand. His eyes burned brilliantly. Just as he was about to attack, his pupils suddenly shrank. Are you done fighting? Jing Nanzi, who was half sunk into the stone wall, lifted his head at that moment. There was still blood at the corners of his mouth, but the bemusement and confusion in his eyes had already disappeared, replaced by a ghastly chill. Almost at the instant Jing Nanzi said those words, he lifted his right hand and seized Qianlin's arm, who had thrown his fist forward. He yanked it closer before flinging Qianling into the air, and with it, his body started shuddering, and a large amount of crystalline light erupted. That crystalline light was the essence of his nascent divinity. At that moment, half of it had scattered away. When Jing Nanzi had flung Qianlin, the other crashed to the ground with a bang. He struggled to his feet with a bitter, despairing look on his face. He had already activated all his power, but he was still not an opponent to Jing Nanzi. "I've underestimated you again." Jing Nanzi cracked his neck as he walked out of the sunken wall. He did not look at Qianlin, but cast a gloomy gaze at Su Ming, looking like a poisonous snake fixating its stare on him. "You have a poisonous wasp with a shocking poison, a mysterious gourd, and a divine ability that could make me sink into an illusion. You're very good. If you had become a lord of a world plane, then even if you were just at the initial stage of world plane realm, I wouldn't have been your opponent. But now, you must die." Strong killing intent appeared in Jing Nanzi's eyes. It had been many years since he had wanted to kill a person as much as he did right then. Su Ming destroying his clone had angered him, but what he did just now surpassed him being just angered. The other had caused his rage to reach boiling point. Jing Nanzi moved and disappeared without a trace. When he vanished, Su Ming's expression changed. He warped as well, and when he reappeared, he was right before Qianlin. Almost at the same moment Su Ming appeared, Jing Nanzi also walked out from the air before Qianlin. With a simple divine ability that contained no complex machinations, he hurled his fist at Su Ming. "You're young, but you're a cunning one. You actually managed to see that I wanted to kill this young member of the Qian family first." Su Ming could not allow Jing Nanzi to just kill Qianlin so easily. Between the two of them, Qianlin possessed the greater combat prowess. If Qianlin lived, then they still might not be able to win this battle, but if Qianlin died, then there would truly be no hope to gain victory. Su Ming stood between Qianlin and Jing Nanzi, blocking the other's way. He swung the killing sword in his hand upwards to crash into Jing Nanzi's fist. Su Ming might seem as if he was resisting his opponent's power, but in truth, he did not harbor any thoughts to fight back. All his strikes were for the purpose of blocking. Boom! Su Ming's right hand, which held onto the killing sword, was torn into a bloody mess. The screen of light from the 5-direction seal manifested, and Han Mountain Bell appeared inside it. Once the bell chimed, the small snake's roars as well as its gaze of a candle dragon, which was filled with the power to capture souls, and the 9-headed dragon that was Han Mountain Bell manifested. All of them focused on resisting Jing Nanzi's blows, and a deafening resounded in the cave. Su Ming was still wearing the sacred constellation robe. He might find it difficult to bring out the robe's full power, but its defensive properties still remained. But even with the sacred constellation robe on him, Su Ming still coughed up several mouthfuls of blood. With a loud whooshing sound, his body flew backwards, and he grabbed Qianlin on his retreat as Su Ming withdrew. He activated Destiny's power with his left hand and pointed at Jing Nanzi through the air. The poisonous wasp flew out from his sleeve in a flash and charged towards the enemy. Jing Nanzi let out a cold harumph, but his heart was in shock. After all, he was already in the middle stage of World Plane Realm, and the power Su Ming showed only belonged to those in Earth Cultivation Realm. Yet this cultivator in Earth Cultivation Realm was incredibly difficult to deal with. Jing Nanzi was about to chase after him when he noticed a change in a law around him. Time seemed to be taking hold of his body, wishing to drag him back. A sense of danger filled his heart. Jing Nanzi turned around and pointed at the air beside him. Layers of ripples appeared in the spot in the air. The poisonous wasp was forced to reveal its body, but just as Jing Nanzi was about to tap its body with his finger, the poisonous wasp disappeared with a whoosh. A glint appeared in Jing Nanzi's eyes. When he turned his head around to look at Su Ming, who was retreating, a strange light showed up in his eyes. Jing Nanzi lifted his right hand and seized the air with his fingers. A dark light shone in his eyes and he said in a low voice, "The laws in this place are those of fire. The rules in this place are those of blood. With my seal of divine essence, I will now verify my path to my world plane. Within 100,000 feet, I will now seal speed, regeneration, physical power, the might of enchanted treasures, and the circulation of cultivation bases." As he spoke, it was as if each of his words contained a supreme will. It was as if his words were law, and it could decide the alterations and operations of the world in a certain area. It was especially so for his words that declared to seal speed, regeneration, physical power, the might of enchanted treasures, and the circulation of cultivation bases. Right at the instant he declared the sealing of these 5 things, Su Ming's speed as he retreated vanished. He had lost all of his speed. At the same time, Qian Lin's wounds also stopped healing. His injuries started tearing up and deteriorating, and he could no longer heal them. Soon after, Su Ming felt himself losing all his physical strength. He also lost all his connections to his enchanted treasures, as if he could no longer control them. In fact, he also lost his touch with his cultivation base at that instant. He could no longer circulate it. The complete power of the world plane would allow divine essence to conglomerate. With the seal of divine essence, one can forcefully interfere with the operations in a certain part of the world, then replace the will in that part of the world with their own, thereby reaching a state where their words become law at the moment they leave their mouth, making all the laws in that place become their will, and the rules to become their thought. There aren't many lords of world planes who can do this. To think that he has such thought contained in his seal of divine essence that he is able to form laws by speaking. He was just toying with us with everything he did before, Qian Lin said bitterly. Jing Nanzi pulled back his right hand and looked at Su Ming coldly. As he moved forward, he closed in on them in an instant, and a life-threatening sense of danger swiftly filled every fiber of Su Ming's being. His pupils shrank. A sharp glare flashed in his eyes. This person had sealed everything about him, but he did not manage to seal his soul. If he had to, he could just abandon his physical body and have his soul flee from this place. Yet at that moment, Brother Su, I'm grateful for your help. If the growth armor is formed after I die, you can take it. That is my gift to you, Qian Lin suddenly said. He changed spots with Su Ming, and with a bang, his nascent divinity was set on fire. The shadow of the big tree was also set on fire. Jing Nanzi, even if I die, I will self-destruct and make you pay the price. Madness appeared in Qian Lin's eyes, and he chose to self-destruct. Once he pushed Su Ming away, his entire body turned into a blinding sun. That light illuminated every part in the cast cave and submerged Jing Nanzi, whose gloomy expression had changed slightly, in its light. Boom! Deafening booms stirred up an endless amount of echoes in the air. They swept up the presence of death within Qian Lin along with his torn body, sending Su Ming backwards, beside the Duke of Crimson Flame skeleton, half of whose body was inside the purplish-black magma. You're finally here, fellow ally from the sacred abyss builders. I bear no ill will. We come from the same homeland, after all. Chapter 782, Stall for Time. Booming sounds echoed in the cast cave. Qian Lin's body shattered into pieces, and the destructive power that was formed fused with the vast life force he had gained after he fused with the Sal tree. It sent a loud bang in all directions. Qian Lin passed away. The cast cave trembled. Numerous stones fell off the walls. The entire area visibly shook. Half of Su Ming's body was within the purplish-black magma. His face was pale as he watched the entire thing unfold. Sun Kuan died. Qian Lin died. And since Jing Nanzi could come here, then it would only mean that Yi Shentong's clone had also died. Jing Nanzi's level of cultivation is high. Sun Kuan and Qian Lin both died in succession. Do I really have to give up on this physical body and flee with my soul? When a sparkle appeared in Su Ming's eyes because of that thought, the weak and feeble voice spoke to him once again. I bear no ill will. We don't have time to talk much, fellow ally from the sacred abyss builders. Please help me stall for time. As long as I can force out the first sealing sword, then I will be able to help you. Once I force out the first sword, it'll be easy for me to kill this person, and I'll also be able to grant you a serendipitous event. After all, we come from the same homeland. Time. Help me stall for some time. And so that you will be able to stall for a sufficient amount of time, I will first give you a shred of my physical power. At the instant that feeble voice echoed in Su Ming's mind, he felt 2 waves of heat seeping into his feet from the purplish-black magma and surging into his body. That wave of heat was filled with a mighty feeling. Once it surged into his body, it fused with his flesh, blood, and bones. This did not affect his cultivation base, but was swiftly changing the structure of his physical body. This was the same as what happened when Su Ming had been absorbing the physical power contained in the stones during the past few years. However, this time, he was not taking the initiative to absorb the power. The dense physical power was surging into his body on its own. As Su Ming's physical body was continuously becoming stronger, the echoes of the loud bangs lingered in the cast cave. A large amount of dust tumbled about in the form of fog, and Jing Nanzi's gloomy voice spread in all directions once he spoke up. The final member of the Qian family in the barren lands of divine essence died, freeing himself from his never-ending pain. This can also be considered an act of mercy from me. Jing Nanzi slowly walked out of the dust. When he was only 1,000 feet away from where Su Ming was, he looked over. Now, it's your turn. Jing Nanzi's red hair fluttered in the air. There might be many parts on his armor that had been damaged, and there was even fresh blood trickling out of the corners of his mouth, but there was still a brilliant light shining in his eyes. If anyone would find that gaze fixed upon them, they would immediately feel as if that gaze had corporeal form, stabbing their bodies with needle-like pain. While speaking, Jing Nanzi lifted his right hand and seized the air. The long red spear immediately came to him. Once he held it, he lifted his foot without any hurry and walked at a moderate pace towards Su Ming. You seem to hate the Qian family very much, Su Ming suddenly said. His physical body was becoming increasingly stronger, and he was absorbing the physical power from the magma even faster than that. Yet strangely, the other didn't manage to discover even a hint of this. When Su Ming thought about it, he figured that it was related to the Duke of Crimson Flame. He had no idea what method the skeleton had used, but it had managed to make it difficult for Jing Nanzi to notice Su Ming's current condition. Hate. You have incredible curiosity. An aloof look appeared in Jing Nanzi's eyes. He charged towards Su Ming like a bolt of lightning with a long spear in hand. Yet just as he leaped into the air and was about to close in, a glint appeared in Su Ming's eyes and he said coldly, "Your older brother died for you because you offended the Qian family in true sacred Yin world, am I right? What's the name of the girl beside the old man?" At the instant Su Ming asked these questions, Jing Nanzi's body froze in midair. An incredibly powerful killing intent appeared in his eyes as he stared over coldly. He might seem to be behaving normally, but Su Ming noticed that Jing Nanzi's breathing had clearly become harsh. The main branch of Qian Lin's family is the Qian family of true sacred Yin world, which is also the family of the girl you offended. Since you offended her, your older brother died for you, allowing you to be pardoned from death. From then on, Qian family became your target for revenge. When some of its members failed in a rebellion and a branch was banished to the barren lands of divine essence, they became your prey. You enslaved them and continuously slaughtered them brutally. In the end, you even spared Qian Lin so that he would be tormented by a desire for revenge and pain. If my guess is correct, then the girl you offended has some connection with Qian Lin's family. In fact, Qian Lin's family might even be the direct descendants of her lineage. That's why this so-called failed rebellion was really just the other branches of the family succeeding in snatching over the position of head of the family. Su Ming would normally not say so much, but with each breath he managed to stall, his body would become slightly stronger, and the Duke of Crimson Flame skeleton would also have a greater chance of breaking the seal. As Su Ming's physical body became stronger, the bald crane also woke up in his storage bag. It flew out and crashed head first into the purplish-black magma. It was first stunned, then stuck its head carefully out of the magma not too far in the distance. It looked at Su Ming, who was mostly submerged in magma, then at Jing Nanzi, who was standing in the air with a dark expression on his face and a cold sneer on his lips. The bald crane then quickly retracted its head. But when it did so, it suddenly saw the Duke of Crimson Flame by its side. When it saw him, its eyes immediately went wide. In fact, the Duke of Crimson Flame's empty eye sockets seemed to flash at that instant, as if it was looking at the bald crane. You're speaking so slowly and voicing all these words that cause pain to my heart because you're waiting for that long person to take the world stone and break open the seal, right? Jing Nanzi stated flatly while looking at Su Ming. Did you actually think the seal would be so easily broken? And even if it breaks, so what? Even if that companion of yours, Long Li, was it? Even if he manages to retrieve the world stone, what could he possibly do? Jing Nanzi smiled coldly. He took a step forward while speaking languidly, but his words crashed into Su Ming's heart like a thunderbolt. These seals are just a diversion to confuse other people's eyes. If the true seal is not broken, then this mighty cultivator from the alien race will not be able to bring out even a shred of its power. Did you think that you could use his power to kill me? Derision appeared in Jing Nanzi's eyes. With one move, he appeared in the air 200 feet away from Su Ming, then swung his spear in his direction. Hum! The tip of the spear appeared before Su Ming in an instant. An incredibly fierce, chilling air froze his entire body, and the purplish-black magma around him also seemed to have turned into frozen mud during that instant. Su Ming's pupils shrank. He did not try stopping the long spear from approaching him. His body abruptly sank into the purplish-black magma, and he disappeared within an instant. The moment he did so, the long spear touched the purplish-black magma. Boom! 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 3 booms rang out in succession. The purplish-black magma erupted 3 times. The destructive power from the long spear crawled into the magma in a frenzy, causing the thick liquid to be blown backwards before splattering all over the place. As the magma flew into the air, the Duke of Crimson Flame skeleton was drowned by it and could no longer be seen. Once the bald crane transformed, it was also difficult to be found. Su Ming, however, turned into a long arc and rushed out as the magma filled the air. Jing Nanzi let out a cold harumph. With the long spear in hand, he turned around, but the instant he looked at Su Ming, the cast cave in the sealed region started trembling violently. Muffled booms rang through the tunnels in the beehive. It was as if everything in the depths of the ground were about to collapse. Cracking sounds came from the walls. It was as if the entire rune had lost its support and was shattering. When Su Ming saw this, his pupils constricted. There was only one explanation to this. Long Li had succeeded. He succeeded in retrieving the World Stone, making the rune lose its balance. However, Long Li would definitely not return to help. At this moment, he was probably fleeing into the world outside, intending to leave the seal, which was about to collapse and be buried under debris. Very good. You finally managed to break open all the outer seals. Only now will I be considered to have performed a real meritorious deed once I kill all of you and prevent the mighty cultivator from the alien race from awakening. A smile appeared on Jing Nanzi's face, and a red shadow walked out of his body. Once it turned into his clone, it grinned and charged into the tunnel in the distance, clearly to chase down Long Li and kill him. In truth, I was also stalling for time, waiting for you to succeed. Now, the game has ended. As Jing Nanzi continued grinning, he took a step towards Su Ming. When he took that one step forward, a loud bang went off in Su Ming's head. The first reaction his mind sent to his body was not to retreat, but to lift his left hand and have destiny's power fuse with it. At the same time he changed the law, he pushed forward. With it, his hand immediately looked as if it had touched the surface of water. A palm manifested out of nowhere before his body. That palm drew out an arc that seemed to contain some sort of trajectory before it pressed against Su Ming's chest. Right then, Su Ming's power of destiny was activated, causing the palm to freeze for a moment when it touched it. It was also at this instant that allowed Su Ming to fully activate the sacred constellation robe. At the same time, Su Ming's arms, legs, and even a large portion of his body withered away. Only the spot where the palm touched his chest remained normal in appearance, but in truth, it contained all the defensive powers in Su Ming's body. Boom! The sacred constellation robe fluttered violently. Once it neutralized part of the power from the palm, Su Ming's body fell backwards, and he coughed up blood non-stop. His body recovered swiftly and returned to normal from its previously withered state, but his face was ashen pale. If those in the middle stage of World Plane Realm attack at full force, it's difficult for me to stand up against them. Su Ming retreated swiftly. His breathing was quick. The organs in his body were damaged to the point where they were close to breaking down. He was incredibly badly wounded. If he had not received a boost to his physical power just then, it would have been difficult for him to withstand this attack. Jing Nanzi's body manifested at the spot where the palm had pushed down just then. He pulled back his palm and said arrogantly, "It'll be a pity to kill you. Become my slave and I will spare you." Chapter 783, The Domineering Bald Crane. Your level of cultivation is Earth Cultivation Realm, and you have a physical body that is near heaven cultivation realm. You also have many skills and divine abilities. Your illusions are terrifying, and you have an outstanding mind. A normal powerful warrior in the initial stage of World Plane Realm couldn't hope to be your opponent unless they did not hesitate to use the power of World Plane. Only by using brute strength to suppress you would they be able to win against you, Jing Nanzi stated flatly while looking at Su Ming. Become my slave for 10,000 years, and I will fight for you to have freedom. If you refuse, then you'll die. A cold glare flashed in Jing Nanzi's eyes. As he spoke, he took one step toward Su Ming. A great, mighty pressure spread out from Jing Nanzi's body. As it charged over to envelop Su Ming, he staggered a few steps back once again. Su Ming's expression was incredibly dark. He still had the poisonous wasp in his sleeve, but Jing Nanzi must surely be on guard against it. Fellow ally from the Sacred Abyss Builders, come to my side. I haven't managed to completely force out the sealing sword, but with half of it out, I can already ensure your safety if you're within 30 feet of me. When that feeble voice reached Su Ming's ears, he swiftly moved backwards. Jing Nanzi let out a cold harumph, but he did not chase after. Instead, he lifted his right hand and threw the long spear in his hand forward. With a loud hum, the long spear turned into a blood-long red arc that charged toward Su Ming. On his retreat, Su Ming brought out the gourd. Treasured gourd, please kill him. Su Ming's voice was hoarse, for he was caught in a life-threatening crisis. At the moment he said those words, green fog instantly rose from within the gourd. The palm-sized human doll manifested, then as he swept up the fog, he charged towards the long spear with the small sword in hand. Boom! A wave of impact swept through the air, and Su Ming used that force to increase his speed of retreat, but before he could move far away, the air before him distorted. Once Jing Nanzi walked out with that bizarre method of his, he tried to grab the top of Su Ming's head with his right hand. Red filled Su Ming's eyes. During that instant, he could clearly feel that the space around him had been sealed. The hand that looked to be coming towards him from the front felt as if it was rushing towards him from all directions, giving him a feeling that there was no hope for him to dodge it. Even more shocked was the fact that the dimension around him had completely frozen up. Su Ming threw his head back and let out a shrill howl. During that moment of crisis, he lifted his left hand and pushed upwards with his palm facing up while the palm of his right hand was turned downwards to press against the ground through the air. That which exists between the past and the future is destiny. The shadows of a purple-haired man and a white-haired infant appeared before Su Ming. As they overlapped, they covered Su Ming's body. All of this might seem to have happened over a long period of time, but it only lasted for how long it takes for a person to blink. When Jing Nanzi's right hand was less than 5 feet away from the top of Su Ming's skull, Su Ming's body transformed, and what appeared before Jing Nanzi was a boy that seemed to be around 14-15 years old. The boy had a head full of grey hair, and it was so long that it reached his waist. This kid was naturally Su Ming after he had transformed into destiny. Once he changed, the space around him distorted. He moved. At the instant Jing Nanzi's palm almost seized Su Ming, he broke free of the seal in the dimension around him and moved 100 feet backwards. A glint appeared in Jing Nanzi's eyes as he looked at Su Ming after he had transformed. Su Ming's grey hair fluttered in the air. When he lifted his head, his eyes held a callous and emotionless look. Even now, Su Ming still had many cards that he had not yet revealed, such as the 7 Abyssal Yin Death Seal and the almost shattered Welcoming of Deities. But he did not choose to attack again. He knew of the difference of power between the two of them. Even if he had turned into destiny, he could still not close the distance between them. Once Su Ming broke free of the seal around him, he started retreating without any hesitation. With his current state of destiny, he had control over the flow of time, and if he wanted to flee, then even if a powerful warrior in the middle stage of World Plane Realm wanted to chase after him, he would be hard-pressed to do so. At the instant Jing Nanzi's pupils shrank slightly, Su Ming had already traveled several thousands of feet to stand on a purplish-black molten rock. At the instant he landed there, the Duke of Crimson Flame skeleton floated to the surface of the purplish-black magma beside him. The act of the skeleton floating up to the surface on his own accord made Jing Nanzi freeze in his tracks for a moment, just as he was about to give chase. When he focused his attention on the skeleton, He saw right away that half of the red short sword on the Duke of Crimson Flame's skull had been forced out. At the instant Jing Nanzi saw this scene, his eyes went wide. Shock appeared in his eyes, and all thoughts of toying around with Su Ming were placed aside. A grave look that had never appeared on his face before showed up, and he charged over like a bolt of lightning. Won the way, he seized the air with his right hand. The red spear appeared in his palm, and once he closed in with an indescribable speed, he thrust the spear forward, stirring up loud booming sounds. Boom! Boom! The tip of the spear stopped 30 feet in the air away from the skeleton. In the end, it pierced another 5 feet before it could no longer move any farther. Jing Nanzi's expression turned even darker, and there was even a hint of panic in his eyes. He saw Su Ming still standing 30 feet away from him as the short red sword on the skeleton's skull was coming more loose at a slow pace. By the looks of it, the sword would be completely forced out of the skeleton's body before long. Damn it! How could this happen? The cultivator from the alien race should be in deep sleep, and it should be impossible for him to wake up. But even if he's about to wake up, it's fine. He has been sealed up for years, and there's not a single bit of power left in his body. Even if he wants to recover, he'll need to spend a lot of time to do so in the barren lands of divine essence. Jing Nanzi let out a cold harumph, then pulled back the long spear. He took a few steps back before lifting his left hand and breaking the skin on the tips of his fingers. Then, he flung the blood in the air before him. When they laid the runes to seal the mighty cultivators from the alien races in the past, they left behind a subsidiary seal. This subsidiary seal is something all true guards must learn when they come to the barren lands of divine essence. I thought I would not have the chance to use it while on duty, but it seems that I'll get to execute the seal today. As Jing Nanzi's lips curled up into a cold sneer, he quickly waved his left hand before him. In the blink of an eye, a circular, blood-red rune appeared. He bit the tip of his tongue and coughed up a huge mouthful of blood. That blood spilled on the blood-red rune, causing a piercing, blood-red light to spread out. Once the rune appeared, a rune that was the size of Crimson Flame Planet beyond the sealed region, located in the galaxy away, manifested in the mid of endless distorted ripples. The rune was crimson in color, and it was exactly the same as the rune Jing Nanzi had laid down. This was a divine ability that all the people sent from the 4 great true worlds had to learn when they came to keep a lookout over the barren lands of divine essence. There was only one function for this art, and it was to activate the great divine essence rune that was laid out by the 4 great true worlds. That rune covered every corner within the barren lands of divine essence and reached even to the depths of the galaxy. There were only a few spots that were not covered by this rune. All the other places were within its area of effect. This rune had plenty of wondrous effects, and according to the status of each true guard, they could obtain different types of access to control this divine essence rune. Jing Nanzi did not have a lot of access. He could only use the most basic function in the rune, to strengthen the seal. At that moment, as the red rune appeared beyond Crimson Flame Planet, Jing Nanzi laughed ferociously within the sealed region and pushed his left hand against the smaller red rune before him. It immediately charged toward Su Ming, and at the instant it touched the air 30 feet away from Su Ming, a loud bang resounded. As it echoed in the air, the Duke of Crimson Flame skeleton started trembling viciously. The short red sword that looked as if it was about to be forced out of his skull started letting out a piercing red light, as if its strength had been replenished. It no longer went outwards, but started seeping into the skull once again. At the same time, the 30 feet wide area of protection around Su Ming became weaker and smaller as the short red sword plunged deeper into the skull. The area was now only 20 feet wide. Jing Nanzi smiled in a frightful manner. To him, this trip outside posed no danger. At most, he had lost a clone, but even then, it was nothing compared to the meritorious deed he was about to be credited. Besides, it was not as if he would not gain any rewards from this, either. When he saw all the treasures on Su Ming's body, he was incredibly tempted, and he already treated them as his own items. Su Ming looked at the defense around him shrinking rapidly, certain it would disappear completely before long. He was prepared to flee the danger looming over his head when he suddenly spoke up. "Can you help him break the seal? If you can, then hurry up and do so. If you can't, then come back and run away with me." His words were spoken very abruptly. Jing Nanzi was caught off guard by them, then the layer of purplish-black magma turned into a bald crane beside Su Ming. The bald crane was drenched in sweat, a telling sign that it was just about to suffocate in the magma due to the heat. Once it returned to its original self, it immediately flapped its wings, spotting an incredibly pathetic look. Darn, too hot. I was almost smothered. The bald crane's appearance made Jing Nanzi frown. He lifted his left hand and pointed at the red rune. It shone once again, and as it strengthened the seal, it caused the area of defense around Su Ming to shrink till there was only 10 feet left. The bald crane let out a shrill cry and swiftly moved back while glaring at the red rune. When a hate-filled expression appeared on its face, it whipped its head around. Then, as Jing Nanzi stared with his mouth hanging open and his expression changing drastically to reveal shock, the bald crane grabbed the short red sword on the Duke of Crimson Flame's skeleton. The bird was mumbling something that no one could hear clearly while its wings turned into hands around the handle of the sword. The bald crane then transformed its feet into human-like ones and fiercely stomped on the Duke of Crimson Flame's head. A loud bang shot into the air, and the Duke of Crimson Flame's eye sockets were lit with a black light. The short sword in his skull had been yanked out. Not only was Jing Nanzi taken aback by this scene, even Su Ming sucked in a sharp breath. He had not expected the bald crane to be able to do this, either. Even the Duke of Crimson Flame was momentarily stunned, then the dark light in his eye sockets flashed, and a terrifying presence erupted from his body with a bang. As his presence burst forth, the Duke of Crimson Flame slowly lifted his skeletal right hand, stretched out his index finger, and pointed at Jing Nanzi. At the instant he did so, Jing Nanzi's expression changed. Fear and disbelief appeared on his face, and without any hesitation, he swiftly retreated. How can this be? That's a sealing sword. It's the sword that would cause the souls of all the people besides the person who inserted it to disperse. It's the sealing sword that the mighty cultivators in Hollow Kalpa realm from the 4 great true realms had laid personally in the bodies of the mighty cultivators of the alien races. Chapter 784. Jing Nanzi died. This is impossible. Jing Nanzi's expression changed in a manner so drastic it had never happened to him before. As he retreated, his pupils shrank violently to reveal shock and disbelief. What he just saw surpassed all his understanding towards the many seals in the barren lands of divine essence, which he had obtained as a true guard. Based on it, the seals in the barren lands of divine essence could not be easily broken. If any outsider touched them, their bodies and spirits would be destroyed. Even if the person who laid the seal wanted to break open the seal forcefully, they would need to pay an incredibly devastating price for it. Even if they managed to break through, they would be reduced to an incredibly weakened state, and even a cultivator in human cultivation realm would be able to injure them gravely. This was how brutal the barren lands of divine essence were to the mighty cultivators from the alien races. It was also the reason why Jing Nanzi had dared to come alone. The anomaly in Black Ink Planet was an accident that had occurred in an ancient age before Jing Nanzi's time, and it was only an accident. However, the scene before him overturned everything he knew, especially when the 2 arms and legs the bald crane had manifested made it look like a human bird. There was also an incredibly smug look on its face at that moment. As it held onto the short sword in its hand, Jing Nanzi could only subconsciously look as if he had just seen the most terrifying ghost in the world. It's an illusion. This is definitely an illusion-type divine ability. It's the illusion that Su Ming cast just now. As Jing Nanzi retreated, dark light glinted in his eyes. He did not believe that the bald crane would be able to break open the seal so easily. If that was the case, Jing Nanzi knew clearly just how terrifying and disastrous the catastrophe that would land on the entire barren lands of divine essence would be. He would rather believe that this was an illusion. Even if it's not an illusion, the mighty cultivator from the alien race has just been released from his seal, and it's just the first of the 3 seals. He must definitely be incredibly weak now. That powerful presence right now is just the sediment that accumulated over the years. With his current power, it'll be impossible for him to kill me with just a finger. Jing Nanzi's intelligence was definitely nothing to scoff at, since he could become a true guard and reach such a level of cultivation over the years in true Sacredian world while he was just a nobody. At that moment, a glint appeared in his eyes, and he resolutely stopped retreating. Whether it's real or fake, Whether he's strong or weak, I'll know if I test it. If it's real, then I won't be able to escape. If he's strong, then I'll definitely die. If that's the case, since I can't escape, then I'll try to fight and see whether this is true and whether he's strong." Jing Nanzi roared. The armor on his body shone with a crimson light. Once he wrapped his fingers around the long spear in his hand, he stopped moving backwards and went forward instead, charging swiftly towards the finger the Duke of Crimson Flame's finger had pointed forward. Even Su Ming felt his heart sink during that instant. This Jing Nanzi might be arrogant, but the resolve within him was not common. If the same thing had happened to Qian Lin, Long Li, Sun Quan, or Yi Shentong, they would have reacted differently, but when it came to Jing Nanzi, he had chosen to turn back after a short moment of hesitation. Almost at the instant Jing Nanzi turned around and came back, a hint of mockery appeared in the dark light within the Duke of Crimson Flame's eye sockets. The moment it happened, Su Ming immediately felt his pupils shrink. He could clearly see an invisible vortex forming in the air before the Duke of Crimson Flame's right index finger. That vortex could absorb all the light from around the area. It could also absorb people's gazes and all the materials in the world. It was as if there was no power contained within that one point itself, but the power of the law contained in it seemed to be able to turn all matter that was rotting away into something amazing, causing that simple point to become the will of the world. At the moment this happened, the Duke of Crimson Flame's feeble but awe-inspiring voice suddenly reached Su Ming's ears. "Fellow ally from the Sacred Abyss Builders, judging by the age of your soul, you should be a toddler among your people. Look closely at my finger. This is the ultimate secret art among the surging indulgers' indulgence. This art does not contain any law in it and only uses pure physical power to break open a black hole in space to devour all aura and material. Once it does that, break the black hole. At the instant it shatters, the power of the ultimate art will erupt forth. The Sacred Abyss Builders have many clones lying about. Since you chose to use my people's art to refine your clone, then I will let you know the true power of the surging indulgers. Look carefully." As the Duke of Crimson Flame spoke, Su Ming immediately felt a wave of impact from all directions around him rush into his body. At the same time, he felt his soul expanding out of his physical body, swiftly starting to move outwards. In the blink of an eye, Su Ming felt that his soul had filled every spot in the collapsing sealed region. It was as if a clear projection had appeared before his eyes. He saw every corner in the sealed region, saw all the shattered stones falling down along with the shattered places, and he also saw a shadow rushing forward swiftly through one of the tunnels. A dense aura of a divine sense was spreading out from that shadow. It was Jing Nanzi's clone. At the same time, Su Ming also saw Long Li, who was running before the clone, being chased by him. The slightly hunchbacked Long Li was pale as he fled desperately. By the looks of it, he was already at the borders of the sealed region, not far from the exit. Yet at that moment, just like an outsider, Su Ming saw the clone that was chasing after Long Li suddenly tremble violently at the instant the invisible black hole from the Duke of Crimson Flame's finger appeared. Then, his body started twisting about in an incredibly bizarre fashion, as if he was being sucked into something. In the blink of an eye, he disintegrated as he shivered. What disappeared along with him were the collapsing walls around the area. Some sort of aura seemed to have been sucked out of them, and once it was gone, the walls were reduced to dust. In the distance, Long Li's eyes went wide. As he let out a shrill roar, Su Ming saw the flesh and blood on his body squirming about before being torn away. First, it was his flesh and blood, then it was his bones, and finally, his nascent divinity. This mighty warrior in the initial stage of World Plane Realm had his body and soul destroyed in the span of a breath. His storage bag also crumbled, and a large number of personal items scattered on the ground. Su Ming's breathing became rapid. This might have seemed to have happened over a long period of time, but in truth, this lasted only while the Duke of Crimson Flame lifted his right hand and pointed forward. Su Ming could see clearly that the space at the tip of the finger shattered. A black hole formed there, and it was this black hole that devoured everything around itself. It caused Long Li to crumble, shattered Jing Nanzi's clone, and turned all the people and items that it shattered into power that it could devour. They were all absorbed into the hole in an invisible manner. I don't have any power of my own. I had simply found a faint weakness that exists everywhere within space, and I opened it. That's how this absorbing and devouring act formed. Now, I will crush it, which is how the collapse and explosion will come into being. When the Duke of Crimson Flame's voice reverberated in the air, Su Ming saw his finger piercing through the black hole before him. This action seemed to have been slowed down several fold before Su Ming's eyes, allowing him to see the entire process clearly. It was as if a sharp needle had just stabbed a water sack filled with water. As the water sack burst open, everything in it exploded forth. Bang! The instant it exploded was also the instant Jing Nanzi turned around. However, what waited for him was not what he believed was false or what he guessed was real. It was not a scene that proved the Duke to be truly strong, or how weak Jing Nanzi thought of him to be. It was death. A fate he could not run away from. With a loud clang, the long spear in Jing Nanzi's hand fell to the ground. He stood there, stunned. Then he lowered his head. At the same time he looked over, Su Ming also saw a bloody hole at the center of his brows. There was blood gushing out of that hole. The armor on his chest shattered, revealing another bloody hole at the spot where his heart was. Blood flowed out from that place, which was also what remained of Jing Nanzi's life force. Do you understand now? At the instant the Duke of Crimson Flame's voice spoke up once again, another bloody hole appeared on Jing Nanzi's nose, right under the center of his brows. At the same time, the fourth bloody hole appeared in his throat, and when Su Ming continued looking downwards, he found 9 bleeding holes from the line between the center of his brows to his heart. They went right through his body, and from the front, Su Ming could see what was behind Jing Nanzi. This is a way to use power. You might not understand it now, but when you know why 9 holes had appeared on his body, you will understand. As the Duke of Crimson Flame's voice echoed in the air, he pulled back his right hand. His body was still immersed in the purplish-black magma. When he looked at Su Ming with that dark light shining in his eye sockets, he turned his gaze away to look at the bald crane. When he looked at it, a myriad of emotions flashed through Duke of Crimson Flame's eyes. There was uncertainty, shock, and also bewilderment. In the vast galaxy beyond Crimson Flame Planet was the region where the 4 great true realms suppressed the barren lands of divine essence. In that region was a strange cultivation planet. More accurately speaking, it was not a cultivation planet, but 98 cultivation planets. This place had a very bizarre appearance, as if 3 squares had been stacked right on top of each other. It looked like a twisted staircase, and in each spot in that strange structure was a cultivation planet. These cultivation planets were not still and unmoving, but were circling about as if there was some law contained between them. Because of that, when anyone looked towards the strange picture formed by the 98 cultivation planets, they would feel as if their hearts were shaking, as if a form of supreme will of a world was contained in the picture. The picture formed by the 98 cultivation planets was known as radix in the galaxy where the 4 great true realms suppressed the barren lands of divine essence. It was just one word, and it was said to have been derived from a name from one of the 4 great true progenitors. No one else knew the meaning behind it. There were 19 of these pictures that were named radix within the area in the barren lands of divine essence that belonged to the 4 great true worlds. At that moment, a ray of brilliant light suddenly started shining on its own accord in one of the planets in this radix, illuminating the entire galaxy in an instant. It also attracted the attention of all people from the 4 great true worlds who were stationed there to fend against the barren lands of divine essence. At the same time, as light spread out from the radix planets, an endless amount of faces appeared above it like a projection. These faces flashed too quickly and could not be seen clearly. This lasted for only a dozen-something breaths before the projection froze on a face and no longer moved. That face naturally belonged to Jing Nanzi. Jing Nanzi, 4th tier True Guard. Cultivator from True Sacred Yin World. The treasured bronze tomb was bestowed upon him 1700 years ago. He died 20 breaths ago in Crimson Flame Planet's sealed region. He died, due to indulgence, the art that belongs to the surging indulgers, who are one of the alien races. An aloof and emotionless voice explained languidly, its voice reaching all the radix planets. Once the message was over, an uproar immediately broke out in the 4 great true worlds region of suppression. While it had been some time since a true guard had died, that was not the reason why the shouts rung in the air. It was all due to where he died, from what divine ability, and that member of the alien race had killed him. The surging indulgers. The alien race. Indulgence. The race's inborn art. Chapter 785, Leaving Crimson Flame Planet. You keep saying that I am an abyss builder, but not even I know my own origins, Su Ming said in a low tone, after having remained silent for a time. At that moment, the rate of the sealed region's collapse had reached its most extreme state. Dust rose in clouds, filling the entire area. Shattered stones fell off the walls. The entire sealed region was rumbling, and most of it had already collapsed. All the people who had come to this place with Su Ming had already died. At that moment, besides the sealed region crumbling and collapsing around him, there was no longer anything else that posed a danger to him. Su Ming looked at the Duke of Crimson Flame, at the mighty cultivator that had lived for an unknown amount of years. He still remembered how the Duke had called him, still recalled that he had said they came from the same homeland. I came from the fifth true world. There is no way I would misjudge your soul. That is the pure presence of the sacred Abyss Builders. You are an Abyss Builder, and also what all the races under the Abyss Pact formed in the fifth true world have acknowledged, the royal race. Under the Abyss Pact, all the races obey the sacred Abyss Builders. They will burn their Abyss Soul flags into their souls, form the indestructible crazed rebirth. Each Abyss Builder has his own abyssal world. They will arrange the cycles of reincarnation in that world, and they are the one and only that can resurrect the dead in the entire universe. A long time ago. I already don't remember how long it has been, but the fifth true world, which is the home of our races, was invaded by the four true worlds at the same time. It was a war aiming to destroy us all. This galaxy we are now was one of the battlefields in the past. In the end, we lost the war. The fifth true world collapsed, and the people of all the races either died or were sealed. However, the four true worlds paid a devastating price for this as well. It was the first time they came to realize just how powerful the fifth true world was. None of the four great true worlds were the fifth true world's opponent alone. Even if two of the true worlds worked together, it would still be difficult for them to rock the fifth true world. But if the four of them working together, then were able to gain a power that the fifth true world could no longer suppress. It was a war that lasted for tens of thousands of years. During that time, the fifth true world was torn to pieces, and the people from all the tens of thousands of races suffered a grave number of casualties. I know that you don't feel any hint of belonging to the place I've just described. After all, you aren't an Abyss Builder that lived during that era, but I do know that Abyss Builders were the main targets of extermination for the four great true worlds during the war. I don't know where you came from, but I'm certain that your father, mother, and your ancestors died during the war. The Duke of Crimson Flame's voice reverberated in the air with an ancient air and a solemn tone. Su Ming remained silent. He did not speak. This was the first time he heard of these things. However, it was just as the Duke had spoken. Those words could not strike a chord within him. Su Ming was Su Ming. The fifth true world was merely the fifth true world. After some time, Su Ming asked, "Where is the entrance to the fifth true world?" The fifth true world is no longer around, so how could there still be an entrance leading to it? Even if it exists, I was sealed by the four great true worlds before the war ended, so I wouldn't be known about it. The Duke of Crimson Flame shook his head, then looked at Su Ming. It had been just a while since the sealing sword had disappeared from the top of his skull, but a large amount of flesh had already gathered on his face. Let's not talk about the fifth true world anymore. It doesn't matter whether you are an Abyss Builder or not, and whether you acknowledge your status or not, let's make a personal deal. The dark light in the Duke of Crimson Flame's eyes began to shine brighter. I want to restore my cultivation base, I want to gather together my lunar kalpa once again, but it's impossible to do so in the barren lands of divine essence. There's practically no plain kalpa aura here. But even so, with my control over laws, mastery over my physical body, and understanding over rules, it would not be difficult for me to kill all those who are not in the later stage of World Plane Realm or higher. You are just in Earth Cultivation Realm. Even if you are capable of killing a person in World Plane Realm using all your skills, you can only fight against those in the initial stage of it. If you run into those in the middle stage of World Plane Realm, you will surely die. I could provide you protection and even attack for you. The Duke of Crimson Flame's eyes shone as he spoke slowly. So, Not only will I attack for you, I will also grant you a great serendipitous event. This sealed region might be collapsing, but it contains my physical power which has been stripped from me over the years. I have no use for this power, but it'll be incredibly useful to you. At the very least, it can make your physical body so strong that it'll reach the pinnacle of heaven cultivation realm. In fact, it won't be impossible for your physical body to reach the state of a lord of a world plane. This will be a trade. I will give you all these, and what you'll need to do is something really simple. I just need a promise. When you form your abyssal world and lay out the cycles of reincarnation in it, please retrieve the abyss soul flags that belong to surging indulgers and resurrect the millions of my people who died during the war. As long as you promise me this, then I, the Duke of Crimson Flame, will willingly comply to the Abyss Pact and do my best to support you. The Duke of Crimson Flame's voice hummed in the air. As it echoed in all directions, Su Ming's heart shook. Don't tell me the answer just yet. After all, you are the first native I met after I woke up. It doesn't matter whether we end up sealing the deal, I will still give you the serendipity. This place is filled with my physical power, but it's useless to me. My lunar kalpa is no longer around, and as long as I don't gather it together, I can train neither my physical body nor my cultivation base. I will give all of them to you. Absorb as much as you can. While speaking, the Duke of Crimson Flame lifted his right hand. A whirlpool immediately appeared on the purplish-black magma beneath him. As it rotated with loud rumbling sounds, the vast physical power in the place surged towards Su Ming. An endless amount of thin threads also charged over from all directions, filling the space around Su Ming. A focused glint appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He sucked in a breath, and all his pores opened up. A thick, boundless wave of physical power surged into his body and began to strengthen his blood, flesh, bones, and everything else that forms a powerful physical body. A strong sense of strength that Su Ming longed for gathered together as he sucked in that breath. He could clearly feel his physical body getting stronger, little by little, with each breath he took. This form of increase in physical power caused Su Ming to have a clear sense of his growing strength. His heart raced against his chest. Each beat was powerful, pushing his blood to circulate through his body and fuse with the incoming physical power. After one circulation, it was as if his cultivation base had completed a circuit in his body. He felt much stronger than before. Su Ming longed to get stronger. He desired the power to control his own fate, or else he would never have agreed to come to the sealed region with Qian Lin. A bang went off in Su Ming's head. While he was covered entirely by that endless physical power, the Duke of Crimson Flame's voice reached his ears. The people sent by the four great true worlds to fend against this place might have already noticed that a true guard died. We can't stay here for long. Right then, the Duke of Crimson Flame formed a seal with his right hand and pushed against the purplish-black magma. With it, the collapsing sealed region started shaking. As layers upon layers of the land hardened, the ground and walls looked as if they had been sealed and no longer continued collapsing. Instead, they turned into a gigantic piece of rock. This rock was the entire sealed region. At that moment, under the influence of the Duke of Crimson Flame's divine ability, a shudder wrecked through the rock that was the sealed region. With it, 9 layers of ripples immediately appeared at the surrounding the place. The 9 layers of ripples turned into 9 layers of distortions. Those distortions moved together with the ripples, and in the blink of an eye, covered the entire rock. Once they filled up every single part on the rock, a loud rumble shook the entire Crimson Flame planet, reverberating through the night sky outside. The hearts of a countless number of cultivators shook, and the ferocious beasts begun to roar. At that moment, the rock that was the sealed region in Crimson Flame Planet vanished with a hum. It disappeared. The inner part of Crimson Flame Planet became empty. The disappearance was due to a warp. It was the Duke of Crimson Flame using the last shred of his power in Plane Kalpa Realm to execute a large-scale warp so that he could shift the entire sealed region and leave Crimson Flame Planet. In the boundless galaxy there were many meteors rushing about. At that moment, 9 layers of ripples took shape within one of the meteors. In the blink of an eye, the rock that was the sealed region appeared inside. The Duke of Crimson Flame's eyes became dull, but he did not immediately enter rest to recover. Instead, he turned his head to stare at the bald crane not too far in the distance, which had been toying around with the sealed sword previously, but was now flapping its wings in a slight panic once the entire sealed region had been shifted. "Sir, just who are you? Darn it! Why didn't you tell me beforehand that you were going to shift? Damn it all, you scared the crap out of me. My heart is still thumping hard here. You scared me. I hate being moved abruptly the most. I have a trauma about it. I definitely have some sort of trauma about it." The bald crane's face was stark pale. When it heard the Duke of Crimson Flame's words, it immediately glared at him. Not too far from the purplish-black magma where the man and crane were located was Su Ming, who had his eyes closed at the moment. He was continuously absorbing the physical power around him. His physical body was becoming increasingly stronger, and his heart was letting out loud thumps. He was immersed in this state of continuously getting more powerful, like a caterpillar that had turned into a cocoon and was in the process of forming its new life to become a butterfly. Not long after the sealed region shifted away and hid itself in the meteor, a mighty pressure that shook the sky and earth appeared with a bang beyond the galaxy in which Crimson Flame Planet resided. A large amount of distortion spread out, and after a moment, 1, 2, 3 ships. A total of 37 gigantic ships of several hundreds of thousands of feet shot through space and manifested in the area beyond Crimson Flame Planet. Electrical arcs spread out from these ships, and the oppressive force coming from them made the entire Crimson Flame Planet tremble. There were nearly 1,000 people standing on each ship. Numerous presences in World Plane Realm spread out from the bow of the ships. In fact, in the middle of these ships was a longship, and there was a presence bursting forth from it that overshadowed all the other presences. It even formed half a sun from gigantic bolts of lightning in the galaxy. Since it was half a sun, it looked like a moon. That was the power of those who had taken half a step into Solar Kalpa Realm, and that stage was known as Lunar Kalpa Realm.